I should be counting backwards. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Greetings. This is Ann Graham, Executive Director of Texans for the Arts, the statewide arts advocacy organization, for our weekly Wednesday Arts Advocacy Update. Glad to have you here on this beautiful day. We have a special guest today who I will introduce and then follow up with a little brief update on what's happening at the Capitol. Our special guest today is Brendon Anthony, who is, welcome Brendon, thank you, is the director of the Texas Music Office, which sits in the office of the governor. And he is going to be joining us today to talk about the SVOG, the Shuttered Venue Operations Grant, and just to bring us up to speed on what's happening. That's going to be going live soon, and those acronyms SVOG and PPP and the ARP and all the things that are happening with federal support. Before we jump into that, I just want to say, hopefully you're on our email list, and you should have gotten a newsletter yesterday with updates about the American Rescue Plan, the upcoming Summit for Americans for the Arts, which is our federal advocacy work. And also an update on the 87th session in terms of the budget. As you know, we're following both the Senate and House bill budgets very carefully. And just today is Wednesday. On Monday, the Senate Finance Committee voted out its version of Senate Bill 1, which is the budget bill. And we'll be sending that to the Senate, the full Senate, to be voted by the full Senate. After that happens, the House should be voting this week on their final workup of the budget. And then the machinations of the Senate sends its budget to the House will add its amendments to that budget and called a substitute. And then that committee substitute will be passed back to the Senate. I hope I'm getting this all right. Senate Bill 1 will pass to the House, and then it will go to what's called the conference committee. And the conference committee was the one that irons out differences between the Senate and the House bill, with the ultimate goal that a balanced budget must be passed by May 31st and the end of this 87th legislative session. So there's still a lot of back and forth. And we, of course, are watching very closely for the Texas Commission on the Arts and the base funding and the funding for the Cultural District program. Currently, it is fully funded to the $10 million tune in the House budget, and it is $6 million in the Senate budget. And we will be continuing with our advocacy work to try to reconcile that and have the conference committee bring that back up to the whole. Really important project, statewide implications, 48 cultural districts at this time, and a growing number when communities recognize the value and the impact of the cultural districts. So we've got our eye on that. And otherwise, the Capitol is really teeming with people right now. Lots of hearings are going forth. Just a lot of interesting work across the map engaged in arts and culture sector. We have a bill tracker on our website. You can follow all of what we're watching and monitoring. And we really appreciate your interest and your support in our work. We're a membership organization. You can always go to texansforthearts.com and become a member of Texans for the Arts if you aren't already. So now I want to introduce Brendon again. And so to set the stage, with the pandemic, there have been a host of federal initiatives and federal rescue plans that have come down the pipeline. And all of you are probably familiar with SOS. In Austin, we think of that as Save Our Springs, but around the state, it's SOS, Save Our Stages. And this was an initiative that started at the very beginning of the pandemic to bring resources to shuttered venues, small and large, all across the state, rural, urban communities that had to shut the doors because of of COVID-19. And what has come out of that is the SVOG, the Shuttered Venue Operations Grant, and a complicated grant, but with large impact, a lot of resources, a lot of dollars. And also related to sort of other acronyms, which you've heard, PPP, Payroll Plan, but all of this around sort of putting people back to work, reopening our communities in a safe way, and ensuring that we have the financial resources. Because the arts really is going to be driving the return to a healthy community and healthy economy. People want to visit that. They need it for their own mental health. We need it to bring us together and to unite around that. And it's also a really powerful economic engine for recovery. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over as a big package and have Brendon help us sort of tease it apart a little bit. Brendon?
And thanks so much. And thanks for all the work you do on behalf of the arts around the state. your job is constant and busy and complicated, and we're so grateful to have you at the helm. Chris, thanks so much for your help today too. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I mean, diving right into SVOG will be valuable. I'll hit a couple of high points. Let me talk really briefly about how this came to be. So, the pandemic hit the music industry hard, something we're all aware of. Theater operators, folks who operate these facilities that are necessary to the health and well-being of the music industry as a whole, particularly hard hit by this crisis. Their employees were particularly hard hit as well. Some other federal programs rolled down the line fairly early in the form of massive congressional relief packages from the Fed. And that was augmenting state unemployment by that extra $600+ I have to give a very big shout out, if you will, to our friends at Texas Workforce Commission that really absorbed a lot of volume in an unprecedented amount of time and an unprecedented scale. And we're able also to absorb recommendations from people like myself and others who were concerned about the livelihoods of those who are mixed earners, folks who are independent contractors, folks who work in our industry that don't work a traditional one job sort of living, don't create a one job sort of living. So our mixed earners are people who were in bands, people who were working in crew and various other things. TWC worked as fast as an agency like that can work, and I have to give them a tremendous amount of credit. Brian Daniel and his team worked very hard to absorb those recommendations and then to absorb the millions of phone calls and emails and applications they got. And the Texas Music Office worked very hard to get our people in so that they could receive those funds. So that was part of the first relief round that came through. I think that saved some people's lives. I think that saved some people's homes. And provided for people's families while they're going through this at the early stages. Then PPP was rolled out, and PPP, as you know, payroll protection program, that was a relationship a business would have with a bank. They would access those funds through lending institutions, an application process, and they would not only keep people on payroll if that was the intent, but keep some businesses open, another tremendously helpful program. And then we move on to the needs of our venue operators in an array of different types of theaters and performance halls who needed specific kinds of help to stay afloat. They were, I know you've all heard this, first to be hit, going to be last to open. It's a mantra we can't let up on because it's true. That law was passed by the Congress on December 27th. Of last year. And then that responsibility to interpret that law and to absorb the program and create the applications portal and process, that responsibility was given to the SBA. So the SBA took on that role of beginning to educate and interpret. The TMO worked very hard to create some webinars to educate venue owners around the state. On one of our webinars alone, we had almost 1,200 people join. The Small Business Assistance Program in the governor's office has done myriad webinars about this. The SBA themselves have done myriad webinars, most of which are still available on sites like mine, texasmusicoffice.com, at the SBA sites, and at Small Business Assistance in the governor's office. They provide a depth of knowledge into this new program that I will not be able to in this statement I'll make, but I do counsel people to go take a look at those if they've got a minute. There have been some complaints, sure, about the amount of time it's taken from the handoff of that responsibility since the signing of that law on the 27th and the proposed and now agreed upon application date, which is April 8th. We wrote a letter for example, to Acting Director Perriello at that time of the SBA, urging she and that administration to step on it. But it's a really tough process they went through, and we just didn't think we'd be doing our job if we didn't say something. But along this way, I want to make it very clear that individuals who work high up in the SBA, down to those folks who are running the SBDCs around the state, have been incredibly helpful as they educate people about what this is, what it means to apply for it, what it's going to do. So I have to give them a lot of credit as well. April 8th is the date when you can apply for funds to the SVOG. I would refer people to the FAQ section on the SBA website to make sure, if you're interested in this, that you do qualify. There's an extensive checklist. There are fairly black and white indicators about whether or not your business will qualify. We hope that these funds will shore up businesses for the next several months until the touring world, the performance world is back up to its healthy 2019 norms. We know that's going to take a long time. We're very optimistic that these funds, the $16 billion, will come in handy for those people. It's a lot of money. I know it sounds like this is a national program, however, and these funds will be applied for by thousands and thousands of businesses around the country who need this kind of help. So I think it's essential for our Texas businesses to really have their ducks in a row and really understand what it means to apply for these funds, and then to be first in line. I want our folks to get the money they need to shore for the next several months. Really high level, I'll walk through SVOG for just a second. It's around $16 billion. $2 billion is reserved for venues with 50 plus full-time employees, but you'll see that in the FAQs with a lot more nuance to it. It adjusts for gross earned revenue, and the max you can receive is around $10 million. Again, I'd refer to SBA guidelines and FAQs for the nuance in those numbers. April 8th, you can begin applying, but there are benchmarks and priorities that'll be set about who gets that money first. And those are very well laid out on the SBA site as well. We translate those on texasmusicoffice.com too, so please check those out. There's been a very big question about how PPP affects those who think they are eligible for SVOG, and let me lay that out for you too. So PPP has been extended through May, which is wonderful. And there was a big concern on the part of venue operators that if they'd accepted PPP in the past, or if they'd re-upped, they might not be eligible for these, in many cases, essential Shuttered Venue Operators Grant dollars. What SBA has said, and what we all agree on now, I think, is that if you receive those PPP funds, your SVOG grant will be reduced by that amount. So you can have both PPP and SVOG, but the SVOG dollars you apply for and are eligible to receive will be reduced by that PPP amount. Now, you have to have been in operation since the end of February, 2/29 of 2020, to receive these. And there are quite a few things on that checklist you need to make sure that you're able to provide as you create your application. And what I'll say about that is it can be daunting. This is a federal program. It's a big application. It will take someone who's skilled at filling some of these things out to get through them. And we're not all those people. That's fine. What's great about this program is it's going to be backed up by folks who work in these SBDC offices around the state. At the Texas Music Office, we are very, very, or we plan to be very helpful, and we have been in the past several weeks at connecting people who are throwing their hands up because they're seeing these checklists with people who can walk them through that application process. Do not give up during this application because you feel like it's too daunting of a process. If these funds are essential for the livelihood, your livelihood, the health and future of your business, don't be deterred by this massive application you're gonna have to fill out. There is help out there, and we will help you find it. And we'll find a human being that can help you walk through that process. So please reach out to us. I'm more than happy to post my individual email address, but you can always find us at texasmusicoffice.com, and we will help you find an individual to speak to at one of these SBDC. The SBA itself, those people you may find on the website if you go visit the SBA, will not be able to be as helpful to you as these individuals at these regional SBDC offices. They are going to have their hands full. So don't get frustrated if you reach out to SBA, because what you're going to get is the application. You will likely not get a bunch of in-person help from SBA. They will simply not have the manpower to absorb those kinds of requests for help. please look regionally at the SBDC office that corresponds to your location and seek help there. That is their role in this process. I'll speak after those specifics a little bit to what I think, if this is appropriate, Ann, to what I think the intended and optimal result of a program like this could be for our industry. The process to get to this point was helped along by elected representatives from our state. Yes, I'm proud that Senator Cornyn was leading the charge on this, that a Texan senator was carrying this. Says a lot about his understanding of the importance of the music industry in our state. But this idea of helping shuttered venue operators was a national effort headed up by a group called NEVA, many others, by the way, but NEVA was very out front in gaining support for this bill. And we had support from, we had support from calls going every which way, from a lot of music venues around the state that weighed in on this. So if you took the time during this process to write your delegation in DC, good for you, because those calls, that attention helped this process through. It was a long process. It took a long bit of time, but you have to think about the scale of this relief package. That's nearly $16 billion for an industry this hard hit. Took a while to put together. And it makes a little bit of sense that it took a long time to put the application and portal process together by the SBA. So there's an element of understanding and grace that's got to go along with this. Now that the application process is going to open, and now that we're going to be the best educated music venue and theater class in the country, and we have the best people at the SBDCs around the state to help us through this process, what does that look like? So these funds are not going to happen overnight. There has to be a management of expectations about the length of time it will actually take to receive the funds. Not extremely clear about how long that'll take. Hopefully, if you apply in April and you're part of the priority group, it'll happen faster, may last through summer. So, what we hope to see is that, venues start to maybe hire people back, start to be able, based on public health rulings in their various regions around the state, begin to host some more shows. Venues we thought maybe weren't going to make it, maybe can absorb these funds and take the steps to getting back on track. I'm really hopeful about that, but we'll be watching. And it's my hope that, in the fall, and I hate to use a crystal ball I don't have, but through the summer and through the fall, we'll sort of see a springtime awakening of these venue shows at historic theaters and performance halls coming back online again, and doing so knowing that they've got some funds in the accounts that'll allow them to do that with less risk and less concern. I'll speak really briefly about the overall health of the music industry. Commercial music industry, we're seeing rumblings on the top end of, some major events coming back, some major events not coming back this year, some touring elements coming back, some not coming back. It's safe to say not everyone's getting back on the road for their major touring seasons again in 2021. It's an international business. These are, the top end of our business is an international touring-based business. And unless they can tour in the United States, in 48 contiguous states, all who have opened and allow it, doesn't seem like it'll come back this summer during major touring season. So let's look to 2022 for that. And let's look at the middle part of our business, the theater portion, the smaller performance hall, up to an understandable cap, coming back and hosting shows, and then making room for those to come back in full, I hope, optimally in 2022. We need all of these things to function for us to be a healthy, economically fully viable touring and recording and performing industry. And until all of those things come back, I don't think that we'll be able to say definitively that we're hitting the benchmarks we did in 2019, which is a banner year for touring and performing. And it's my hope that we can get back there as soon as possible. I hope these funds take us a few important steps towards that, though. And as always, I'll reiterate, we are here at TMO to help. We're here to provide resources and connections that may help connect you with people that will get you back on your feet or feel a little bit more comfortable about taking substantive next steps towards that.
Thank you, Brandon. Applause for all of that information. A couple of things. I mean, NEVA deserves incredible recognition for the team that it pulled together nationally with a very myopic view, focused, laser focused on resources for the Independent Venue Association.
Sure.
And from an advocacy perspective, they blew it out the water, and the $16 billion to show is really impressive. So commend to them. And also, yes, thanking Senator Cornyn, who co-sponsored it with Senator Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota, and also Congressman Roger Williams, District 25.
Absolutely.
In Austin.
Thanks for saying that. 100%.
A House sponsor, and again, for both to have that leadership both in the Congress, Senate, and in the House of Representatives, a powerful statement that they recognize how important this industry is for Austin and for Texas, excuse me. Sorry, my bias here living here in Austin. So do please take Brendon up on his offer to reach out to the music office to find out how to get help to do SVOG applications. Don't be daunted; they will be mammoth. And as you said, I mean, it's not too late, right? It's already end of March, the 8th of April. It's going to take some time to do all this, but really, take this seriously, go down that checklist, see whether or not you will be applicable to the application process. Again, not knowing how long it'll take, but to put those into process. So I think that's it for the moment. Well, quick question too, the SBDG, the acronym for that, if somebody wants to look up in their own community, what do they Google?
SBDC, and I can send a link to that sort of top of that tree.
Okay.
It's Small Business Development Council. So they will have regional offices all around the state, and their job is to help create small business. Their job is to help foster the success of small business, and they will be doing very little else but that important job for the next several months. Okay. So I can provide a link to the top end website for you, and then you will be able to find corresponding offices in all regions around the state.
Okay. Well, we will be posting, we can put this will be posted on Facebook Live, and we can also put it on YouTube, in which case we can add the links and things if you want to forward and share those.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Ann, all these acronyms flying around. I tend to get very, very settled on an acronym and just stay there. So.
Right. Well, just when we were getting ready to PPP and PPE and PPU and all the other things, it is
idle and everything else. Yep.
Exactly. So, well, thank you again for joining us. We really appreciate it. That's a lot. We appreciate everybody checking in today, and you can come back and watch the resources, listen to them again. I just want to reiterate, and sort of in closing, artists being adaptable, artists being sort of the wonderful creators that they are. Maybe some of you heard this on the radio this morning. It was an artist who had been waiting in line quite a long time on the TWC call on hold, listening to the music. Maybe you heard that piece. And he and his wife wrote their own music to be on hold with the TWC and published it. I don't think the TWC has it online, but it was a very creative solution for an artist saying, all right, if I'm on hold for an hour, I want to at least listen to some music that I have generated myself. So good fun and hard work ahead. Thank everybody for their work and for following along with the Texas legislature and all these important resources. We really appreciate you being here with us.
Thanks so much for your time, and thanks for having me on. I sincerely appreciate all your work.
You're welcome. Thank you.